All right, I want you all to picture the following scenario. So imagine you have been studying relentlessly for your upcoming midterm. Now, why are you studying so hard? Well, you want to get a good grade. But then you get your grade back and you realize you failed, either quite literally or maybe you're just an overachiever who considers anything below an A a fail. Now, either ways, you're probably now in some sort of depressed state in which you have no motivation to do anything. You're lying in bed, contemplating life, thinking, why am I such a failure? Maybe you're even considering dropping out and becoming a social media influencer. Now, this process that you're currently engaging in is what we call rumination. Now, the process is repetitive thinking about your problems and these negative thoughts. And some people, most people will say that this is disordered. But I'm going to tell you it's adaptive, hence the title of my talk, It's Okay to Not Be Okay. Now, I'm throwing around the term adaptive, but what does adaptive really mean? So from an evolutionary context, something that is adaptive or an adaptation refers to a change in an organism that increases survival and reproduction. So the most common example that I feel most of us would know is our ability to walk upright. Now, this is an evolved adaptation. So when I call something adaptive or refer to it as an adaptation, I want you all to just think of it as something that is beneficial to us, helps us survive, helpful in the long run. So at this point, you're probably very confused because I just told you to think of something that is adaptive as essentially beneficial, and now I'm saying that depression is adaptive. So I just want you to think back to the initial scenario in which I said you studied hard for your test, but then you failed and you find yourself having no motivation to do anything but ruminate. By that, I mean you don't even want to go to parties with friends, you don't want to attend family dinners, you don't even want to partake in the sports or hobbies that used to bring you joy. No motivation for that, you're just left thinking, why did I fail? So that brings us to the analytical rumination hypothesis, which states that depression is an adaptation that evolved in response to complex problems, and its function is to minimize disruption of rumination. So that explains why anything else you won't be able to do. You simply have no motivation for it except for rumination. And lastly, it sustains analysis of complex problems. So that explains why you're simply thinking to yourself, why did I fail? You're trying to get to the root cause of the problem so that you can start engaging in problem-solving behavior. Now, why does all this matter? I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that we shouldn't treat depression. In fact, depression is a prevalent, a serious clinical mental health condition. But if you're not quite understanding the adaptive value of it all, I want to give you an analogy to physical pain. So imagine you burn your hand on a hot stove, and then, you're going to feel the pain, your hand is burning, but then you're going to learn a lesson, and you're going to think to yourself, well, I'm never doing that again. I'm never putting my hand on a hot stove ever again. So when you think about it from the perspective of the lesson that you learned, we can consider this a trade-off. Now, a trade-off is another evolutionary term, but simply put, it just refers to giving up one thing in return for another. Because without that physical pain, you wouldn't have, learned the lesson of not touching a hot stove in the future. And the same process applies to mental pain. Because without the mental pain you feel while ruminating, you wouldn't have learned the lesson or found the solution in terms of how you're going to avoid such harmful, stressing situations in the future. So again, why does all this matter? I want to make it clear, clinical depression is a serious mental health condition. But that being said, these findings can help console depression sufferers. So next time you're feeling upset about something and you feel like you have no motivation to do anything but ruminate, it's okay. You don't have to panic and start pathologizing your emotions. And lastly, this can help mental health professionals better understand and know how to treat depression effectively, since we don't want people unnecessarily getting prescribed antidepressants, as they have been associated with numerous harmful adverse symptoms. So this brings me back to the initial storyline of my talk. So next time you fail a midterm or maybe just receive a grade much lower than anticipated and you find yourself being upset, ruminating, I want you all to embrace the rumination process and, face your problems and learn from them. Maybe through rumination, you'll realize, my study methods have been ineffective. I need to find new ones like active recall, using flashcards rather than simply rereading your notes. Or maybe you'll realize, academia, generally not for me. I do want to be a social media influencer. Now, whatever solution or conclusion you come to, it's through the process of rumination that these solutions have come to light. So if you're going to remember one thing from my talk, I want you all to now think of rumination as an opportunity to grow, learn, and evolve as a person. Thank you for listening.